Hi, everyone. I'm Norman Pawelczyk. I'm from the Wisconsin Department of Transportation. I work in the Bureau of Technical Services. I am a section chief there. My unit is the Acquisition and Services Unit. I have units in utility coordination, access management, and right-of-way acquisition. As of last week, I've been at the Wisconsin Department of Transportation for 23 years. I've held various positions in the right-of-way area and have been in management now for about 13 years. So with that said, I'd like to get started. So we'll get started with my presentation. The topics that I want to cover today include acquisitions during the COVID-19 situation, encroachments in our right-of-way, and emergency acquisitions that can be accomplished in a document that we have just developed. The first topic, acquisitions during COVID-19, we're finding that we have many meeting options and situations that we find ourselves in during the situation. And as you can see in the upper corner, you can see one of our agents that are working from home and doing a negotiation with a property owner virtually online. On the bottom, you can see a picture of a garage with a table in it. We had one of our agents make up a situation where they decided that they would do it this way, where they put a table in the garage. The acquisition agent brought the documents, placed the documents on the table. The owner came out, signed the documents, and the agent then went back up and picked up the documents and concluded the transaction. Again, we're doing a lot of stuff virtually. We are definitely practicing social distancing, again, wearing the masks, and depending on what you're doing, gloves and other types of things, either if you're doing a acquisition or appraisal determines on what type of safety measures that you're taking. And then one other item that I want to mention is digital signatures. We're using the system that's called DocuSign, and we've been using it now, I believe, for a few years already, but as far as the right-of-way acquisition parts, we're using those on offer the purchases, and then other forms and documents where we feel that it's appropriate and that it works with the property owners and the particular situation. One of the items I have to admit that was going to bother me and not knowing how we were going to handle it is how are we going to notarize our documents? I was pleasantly surprised that most of our notary issues are yet still taken care of face-to-face, again, using precautions. But we have found that using the bank drive-through with the teller and the notary at the bank is a good way of doing it. We find that people, whether they're in a car or walk up or going up to calling the bank, making sure that there's a notary available, pulling up to the window where the tray is, giving the notary your information, your identification, and the document to be notarized. Person gets to see you to verify your identification. They sign it on the inside and then pass through the document through that tray. Another system that we're experimenting with or will be experimenting with is a remote notary service. At the Department of Transportation, we decided that we were going to use a title company to do this procedure if we need to. A remote notary service involves using a third party that is able and approved to do notary in Wisconsin and many of the states in the United States. And that third party then works with the property owner and gets things notarized. Now, it doesn't work for everyone. It would have to be someone that's willing to do this or someone that doesn't want to meet face-to-face, but they also need to have the technology in order to do it with laptops, with cameras, and be able to answer questions online and be able to communicate in that fashion. But again, we chose to use a title company to help us with those types of notary situations if we get into them. I just recently also, as an example, had a question that someone came to me about, I believe it was probably a life estate, and the individual was in a nursing home but had to sign and notarize a document in order to get that property interest released for the property acquisition. So we came up with the way of doing it would be as if the internal staff would be able to help us with that by bringing that person maybe to an entry door or some area where we could transport the paperwork, see the individual, making sure that it was the individual, and then getting the instrument notarized, and believe we were successful in handling that situation. The next item that I would like to talk about is encroachments. At the Wisconsin Department of Transportation, we take encroachments very, very seriously because we feel we are the stewards that need to use property management techniques to take care of our right-of-way. We are now presently using a new philosophy. Well, it's not really new anymore. It's been out for a few years, called performance-based practical design. It has other names, but that's the name that we most focus on. And that design philosophy takes into account the pavement or the structure, the facility that we have now, and what can we do to that facility to make it last a little bit longer than what it was designed for, or at least extend the amount of years that we can use that facility for. And in those types of projects, we may or may not have any right-of-way acquisitions, but we may, or there may be areas. And I call those areas, for my purposes, areas of attention. And in those areas of attention, it may be a safety project issue that needs to be taken care of. And we need to make sure that the clear zone is adequately preserved, and that any type of encroachment is taken care of. So there may be, with this new philosophy or this type of project, there may be areas in that acquisition or in that project area, if it goes on for miles, a few areas that need to be taken care of. But if it's a reconstruct or a major type project, we will certainly then do encroachment research and fill out those reports and take care of those encroachments as needed. Now, I also listed what's a special circumstance. There are circumstances where we can work with the property owner and they are able to keep their encroachment. An example that generally comes up is maybe a septic system, for a good example. There may be a few feet of that septic system that's in the right-of-way, but when you step back and take a look at it, and we talk with the designers at the region, at the Department of Transportation, we say, hey, can we live with this encroachment? And if we can, great. If we can't, then it's got to be removed and we have to take other procedures. But if it can stay, what can we do? One of the things we can do is give them what's called a revocable permit. And I'm going to show you what a revocable permit looks like. This is a revocable permit. I have what I feel are the areas that are the most important. What is listed here are the occupants, where it's located, a description of the issue, what are the criteria that it can stay, and then also what would be some types of situations where it would have to be removed. Some of the typical situations where it would have to be moved would be if the area is needed for a safety treatment. We have a new reconstruct and it's going to be taken up by the new right-of-way. This document is then signed and notarized and recorded at the county courthouse. The nice thing about this situation is that it benefits the owner. It basically gives the owner a permission to have that encroachment, saying that the Department of Transportation is allowing it and will work with the owner to keep it. Now, it also benefits the purchaser, because if generally when you purchase a piece of property, you will want to go and get title insurance, or at least get a title search done on that piece of property. And with this revocable permit being recorded at the county courthouse, it then allows that purchaser to know what the encroachment is, what the criteria is for it, and when I may need to get it out of the Department of Transportation's way. So it's all spelled out, and it's all things are in the open for a transaction. The last item I'd like to talk about is emergency acquisitions, or sometimes referred to as a right of entry. The pictures I have on this slide is a project this last spring that we had up in, I believe it was Door County, where we had a possible road washout or was coming very close. We didn't have time to go through the entire right-of-way acquisition process from the start through negotiations and appraisal and onward. So what we used was this right of entry. And I'm going to show you what this right of entry agreement looks like. It looks like an offer to purchase, kind of acts like an offer to purchase, but it spells out, again, what it is, describes the work that the department has to do, maybe a time period that they're going to be in there, if we're going to pay the property owner for this acquisition or for this right of entry, what the Department of Transportation is allowed to do in a specific area, and then also what the owner can and can't do. And the most important part is the part that I have highlighted in green, where it says that nothing contained in this agreement is going to take away any of the rights and policy and rules that we follow during our property acquisition process. So the owner has all the full ability to negotiate, get their own appraisal. They have a right to appeal compensation. Everything stays intact, and we come back, and we need to come back in an orderly time frame. And again, it gets signed by the owner and by the department, and therefore we have a binding agreement. So with that, I would like to thank you all for watching my presentation. I would like to make the offer out there if you'd like to review any of the documents that I showed you during my presentation there. You're more than welcome to review them and make them workable for your situation, whether you're working on tribal lands or you're from a county and you want to look at these documents. Again, contact any of our staff, real estate acquisition staff statewide, and you're more than welcome to use them. And then also I'd like to give a special thank you to Agnes and Kim from the Intertribal Task Force for helping us with these presentations. Each year you do a dynamite job, and it's a pleasure working with you. Thank you.